Welcome, everyone, to today's BookWidgets Advanced webinar. We're taking a look at Universal Design for Learning. My name is Kate Baker. I am the head of community engagement here at BookWidgets, and I am also a veteran educator. I taught high school English for 20 years, and also I'm an adjunct professor at the university level. So I've been doing this for quite a long time. Feel free to stay in touch beyond the webinar. And if you are unfamiliar with BookWidgets, BookWidgets is a content creation and evaluation platform for teachers. We help you support your students' learning process from beginning to end. We have widget and question templates. We have 40 different widget activity templates. And in our video quiz, worksheet, and split worksheet widgets, there are 36 different question types, 30 of which are auto-scored to save you time, that you can use to create a variety of professional and interactive lessons that will support your students' learning. We are integrated with many of your learning management systems, but you can also share out your widgets with just a quick link or short code. But if you are using that learning management system integration, you also have the ability to monitor student progress live, in addition to tracking students' progress with our reporting dashboard so that you have insightful learning statistics and so that you can review student work in the most efficient way possible so that you can spend less time grading and a heck of a lot more time on personalized feedback. So for today's webinar, what we're going to take a look at is we're going to do an overview of the principles for Universal Design for Learning, UDL. And we're going to showcase examples of widgets and question types in which BookWidgets that are accessible, flexible, and inclusive. So lots of practical applications as well as some best practices will be demonstrated. So again, here's the agenda. We're going to look at Universal Design for Learning, check out the guidelines for engagement, representation, action, and expression. We'll do a quick tour of some question types and look at some widget settings so that you can optimize your instruction with BookWidgets for that Universal Design for Learning. Okay, so what is UDL? It is a framework developed by the CAST organization to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people. And this is based on scientific insights into how humans learn and the principles of accessibility, flexibility, and inclusivity. So we have three core areas, three core principles: engagement, representation, action, and expression. So let's kick it off with some look at engagement. So when it comes to engagement with the UDL framework, according to CAST, learners differ markedly in the ways in which they can be engaged or motivated to learn. And there is no one way for all learners. Every learner has their own unique way, and it can vary quite a bit. So when we take a look at engagement, what we're looking at is how we can recruit interest from our students, how we can sustain their effort and persistence, and promote self-regulation. So when it comes to recruiting interest, we're looking at optimizing individual choice and autonomy. You want to provide options that empower learners to choose aspects of their learning experience. You may have often heard about choice and voice. Absolutely, this is something that you want to promote with your widget activities. You want to provide and optimize relevance, value, and authenticity. You need to make the learning relevant and authentic to your learners' lives. So taking a look at real world problems, not just imaginary or fictional work, but really digging into what can be connected in their daily lives. You also want to create a safe, supportive learning environment that is free from distractions and threats. So thinking about the tenets of social emotional learning, those would all be appropriate here. So let me show you some various widget activities that can help this. For optimizing choice and autonomy, I highly recommend our planner widget. This is a great way to encourage voice and choice. So you have, in this case, we have some different activities that students are going to choose from. You can see we have the link over here, this arrow that's going to indicate that it's going to take us out to somewhere. So I'll just click on it real quick. Takes us to Code a Party. Fun. So they can code.org. And we'll head on back. We can see that as the students complete each activity of the planner, they can check the box and, signify that they have completed that. You can also add in some choice here with the plus icon on the planner. So you can add in as many activities as you would like, and you can specify to your students, again, what category do you want them to do? So they can easily add additional activity. They can also remove it if they decide, nope, I don't want to do that one, or yeah, maybe I do want to do this one, and delete it accordingly. And again, checking the box that they have accomplished it. So the planner widget is a great one to optimize for choice and to allow your students to be directed with that choice. Let's take a look at a web quest widget. A web quest is a fantastic tool, but I do have to warn you, this widget is something that requires a bit of investment from you to curate and collect all of your resources. So here I'm giving you a sneak peek into one that I've been working on. This is looking at eco poetry. So I have my resources are organized in the tabs down here at the bottom. I've put in a number of resources, multimedia. They can go to some different chapters. I got some jokes in here because who doesn't love some good memes? I also have, again, some information that will support their understanding of this. And then when we get into the activities, we have some choice here. They can check their understanding by navigating to any of these activities. I can make this mandatory that you must do all the things, but again, I can support my students' autonomy and allow them to pick. Do they like a crossword or do they like a word search? They can go navigate to that particular activity, complete it, and return back to the web quest. And then I will get all of that data behind the scenes. So it's a great way, again, to curate information and to really create an organized pathway of learning for them. And as simple or as complex as you like. Let's take a look also at this in terms of relevance, value, and authenticity. So one of the issues I often faced in my classroom was the 9th grade research paper project. This was always something that was really cumbersome to teach. Especially when I imposed a topic on my students and said, you must write about this particular topic and research it. And I thought, what if I redesigned this for something that could support inquiry? So I've totally kind of rebranded and reframed my research paper project and used this worksheet widget that also has embedded in it the randomness widget. So here I'm guiding my students through this inquiry adventure. They're going to choose one of the question generators, spin the wheel to get a random question. It's not so random because I've selected the questions that I've put in the random spinner. But again, I'm guiding their choice here. So they can spin the wheel. If they don't like the particular question, well, guess what they could do? Spin the wheel again. Or choose a different random question generator. Again, spin the wheel. And then I create, once they've picked their question, I'm going to scroll down here. Now they can begin the inquiry process. They type in their question. They type in 3 additional questions to support an extension of the exploration of this topic. They jot down 5 keywords. They go conduct the search. They use the whiteboard question to capture screenshots and make notes to organize their thinking. Then even jotting down some additional text-based notes to organize their thinking. And then have them compose a paragraph. And so instead of doing like a big 6-week project, I've now condensed this down into a 1-day or 2-day activity that we could repeat often so that I could build their skill set. And then at the end, we have a rubric for them to check their understanding. So here, I'm allowing that choice, but I'm also, with the questions that I've chosen in the randomizer, I've also brought in some authenticity and connection to their lives by letting them to select a topic and, research a question. And because I'm based in the state of New Jersey in the United States, I've included a special question generator that is relevant to our local history of the state. So again, trying to support my students' efficacy. So this is a great way to support my students' choice, and embedding that randomness widget inside of that worksheet really helps to put a little bit of a fun spin on it. When it comes to minimizing threats and distractions and creating that safe, supportive learning environment, I encourage you to begin, at the very beginning with setting some goals and group norms. So in this case, I've used the video quiz widget to flip my class expectations. So at the very beginning of my course, at the beginning of the school year, rather than standing in front of my students and reading off my rules and regulations to them, I let them take an interactive approach. This is actually a homework assignment that I give them 2 weeks to go do this, and I want them to watch this video and complete this video quiz with their parents or guardian. And all of this is in anticipation of our back to school night, kind of our open house where parents are enabled to follow their student schedule and meet the teacher. So I have my video. You can see my face is down here in the bottom corner. Welcome to English 9 with Mrs. Baker. Today I'm going to tell you about the class expectations for English 9. Everyone should have a copy of the class expectations, which you can refer to and keep a copy at home or in your notebook. So all I'm doing in terms of visuals, I'm not a fancy Hollywood cinematographer. I'm just doing a screen share of my document and reading through the things that I've printed out and given to them. But then what I have is, as the video progresses and we get to these question points, now it pops out and I can check their understanding. So again, I'm doing some norming in a way that is keeping everybody on the same page, so to speak, that I'm informing both my parents and my students for what are the expectations and behaviors for class. You can also do some, activities where you're having your students co-create this classroom agreement and have them also participate in developing what are the expectations. And then that agreement could be something that is posted in your classroom. But as you can see here, I'm checking my students' understanding with a variety of question types. And, in a fun way, letting them know what are the expectations and what should they do in case, with whatever they may experience. Now, the beauty of this in creating this classroom environment is on back to school night, as I would stand at my door and I would wait for my students, I would wait for my parents to join me. They would turn the corner down the hallway, and as they turn the corner, they would turn and look and see me standing at the door, and they would immediately recognize me from the video. And then this was a great way that the ice was already broken. My parents were like, "Ah, you're Mrs. Baker. It's so nice to know you." So again, it's important when you do a video like this, that they saw my face, they could hear my voice, they could see my body language, that they could get to know me and understand as the teacher of the classroom how I am creating that safe and supportive learning environment. All right. So that goes with recruiting interest. How can you motivate your students and get them involved? Let's take a look at the next tenet. This is sustaining effort and persistence. So as we engage our students, once we've hooked them into the lesson, how are we going to make sure that they stay with us? Well, you want to heighten the salience of goals and objectives. You want to help your students understand the focus and of the learning goals, whether it's they're helping to set the goals or you're letting them know what the standards or objectives are for the lesson. So here's this worksheet widget. This is a writing activity. It's for fourth graders. So I have the objective included as a text question inside of BookWidgets. So a text question isn't really a question. It's just an area where you can type in information. I've also linked to the standard that we are targeting. And then I give my students the task. They type, they do some brainstorming, they write their story, and then we have a rubric for self-evaluation. And interestingly enough, here on this particular rubric, I'm using the Common Core standards, but rather than using the official language from the Common Core in the rubric, I actually used ChatGPT to translate the rubric language into terminology that would be appropriate for fourth graders. So they can self-assess and understand without getting bogged down in the jargon. So a great way to leverage ChatGPT if you ever need to, kind of transfer text from one level to another, and to, again, be able to make those objectives and learning goals clear for your students. You also want to vary the demands and resources to optimize challenge. So you want to adjust your challenges and support to suit learner needs. So think about differentiating your instruction. Here I got this checklist widget, but this checklist widget is going to show in the instructions, it has a link to 3 different quizzes. So we have a yellow version, a blue version, and an orange version. And as we open up each one, so here I have the emoji up in the top of the title, so that we know that this is the yellow version. And the students will navigate through the quiz, answering the questions, okay? And then you, the teacher, the checklist here, why we have this is for you to figure out, well, what were the options that are in the different versions? So this is a kind of a way for us to guide you in thinking about how to differentiate your widgets. And it's so easy to duplicate a widget that you've created so that you can do that level setting and differentiation. So this is a great way and an easy way for you to see, and I'll pop into the blue one. Maybe you'll notice some differences as I click through. This activity was created by Dimitri. And you'll notice even too, there's some like support up here in the corner, these icons, and you can see some ways that it was different. And these links are just in the information here. I'll show you one more with the orange version. We're going to continue. I'm ready. Now we see a timer. Now we see some feedback given. So speaking of feedback, let me pop back to the slides and show you a couple of other things too. So you want to think about also, while your widgets are going to be collecting students' answers individually. Each student has their own widget. So again, BookWidgets doesn't function like Google Docs, where you have multiple people in one activity. But that doesn't mean you still can't foster some collaboration and community by encouraging this amongst your learners. So for example, here's a word search. Games are a great way to kind of break that ice. So here we have, a word search that includes the list of the names of students within the class. So as you go and find a name, there's one, Eric. I would go walk up to Eric. Come on, here we go. Nope. For whatever reason, I don't know why that's not highlighting for me. There's Eric. There's Eric again. There we go. Okay. Oh, that's because Eric was part of Frederick. So now as I go, I could go talk to, if I was a student in the class, go talk to these students, introduce myself, and then I can see my list is kind of getting checked off as we go. So that's one way, from a game-based experience that you could start to build that sense of community and get your students to know each other. Here's a jigsaw puzzle. So for this one, what the students will do, solve the puzzle, then copy down the diagram in your notebook. This is a great way to begin class, kind of like a bell ringer do now. So as you are taking attendance, the students could be solving the puzzle, and you can differentiate this. If you want to make the puzzle really difficult, you could increase the number of pieces. But for today, I made it really easy so I could quickly solve the puzzle. And then you'll see the reward word that is revealed. So now that they've solved the puzzle, they could, kind of drag this around so they could see it a little bit better as needed. But then they can turn and talk to their neighbor and discuss what they recall about the steps of the process. So you're not always keeping, students' faces in screens, completing their widget activities. You can use your widgets as a conversation starter. And then speaking of feedback, you want to provide feedback that emphasizes effort and growth and increase mastery-oriented feedback. So here's a worksheet. And within this particular worksheet, we're going to see, and actually I'm going to drop a link in the chat for you to play so you can experience it yourselves as students. So I just dropped that in the chat. So as they come in, name the capital cities, Brussels. You'll see, oh, look at that. It just color-coded green. What's this one? Is this Madrid? Nope, nothing happened. I guess I must not be correct. Paris. Nope, still not right. Oh, look at that. I'm not getting my capitals, but I'm getting some feedback that's letting me know my performance. Scroll down. I can do an audio matching question to do some matching here. And I'm just going to kind of really quick randomly match. Oh, and look, I know that that's correct. I'm going to rematch this one. Let's go down here. Yay. Oh, I'm getting lucky on these.
France.
And then I can match that. So it's, feedback in the moment is really powerful, that you can customize your settings to let your students know immediately if they are correct or not. And then you can also do show score. Yep, I'm done. Show score. And then I can get my immediate feedback. What's fun about this too is that in your feedback, you can differentiate your instruction further by linking activities together in that automated feedback. So not only can you give feedback in the moment as students are answering questions by color coding your questions, and their responses. You can also deliver feedback based on their score and then give them a secret word to unlock the next widget activity. You could link in that specific widget activity as well. Or you could even give them some additional feedback, some resources. So let me go check on that widget activity that you just did. Well, I'll come back to that one in a minute. Let's go take a look at one more worksheet one. So this is a worksheet, but it's only got one question in it. And the question is a rubric question type. So this rubric doesn't have to be graded. Your widgets, you can decide whether or not you want to have them actually be scored. So it could be a summative assessment that you're assessing everything, but you could also use your widgets for formative assessment to give them that feedback in the moment when they need it so you can support their efficacy and mastery of learning. So here the students can self-assess and they can say, yes, I know the learning target, or I think I know it, but I might need some more help. So you're giving this opportunity for them to own their learning and to advocate for themselves. And all of these widget activities that I'm sharing, after the webinar is over, you got to give me a few days, but you will receive an email with the link to the recording and the link to the slides. And the slides will be clickable. So you can play with them and really experience all the things. So let's go check out that one that I just dropped in the chat, and let's go take a look and see. Oops, wrong way. Here we go. And we're going to go to, and I want to show you behind the scenes what that looked like. So, examples. Okay. This one. Okay. So behind the scenes, I'm in the widget editor, and what we have is in the general settings, you're able to determine your scoring options. If you want to color code answers immediately, yes. You can decide if you want to show points or not, if you want to have the maximum, and then you can also have that feedback is delivered here. So you go to score, general settings, correction and scoring options, scroll down, and then here is that automated feedback where you can determine it based on your score. You can put in a funny GIF, a funny video. Again, give some resources, make a whole escape room experience, as well as, give some encouragement so that they can learn and course correct. So, and if you ever make any updates to your widgets, because as you saw, I was just clicking around, we get the changes have been made and need to update them. So you'll just see that. Okay, let's pop back to the slides. All right, so that's sustaining effort and persistence, being able to support your students and keep them engaged. The other thing you want to support with universal design for learning is self-regulation. You want to promote expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation. So you want to encourage positive attitudes about learning. You don't always want to be the one directing them to where they're going to go. You want to support their autonomy and their self-regulation. So let's take a look at a couple of examples that support this. So I'm using that worksheet widget again. And this is my check-in form that I've made. And if you'll notice, the design is very different. I've used, a pretty colored background image. My first question is a multiple choice picture question. So they're going to select how they're feeling. Then I ask them on a table question, a series of questions of, are you ready to? learn new skills and content, create or work independently, ask for assistance when needed, collaborate with others, share what you know. And then they can select from the emojis to give me an idea of how they're feeling today, and if they're ready to collaborate or work independently or share. And then if there's anything else they want to share with me, there's an opportunity for them to do that. Okay. So this isn't necessarily a graded worksheet, but this is giving me a great idea as to what their perception is and their attitude is coming into class. Here's another worksheet. It's that day in the life. So again, thinking through, encouraging positive attitudes and making sure that they're understanding the goal and why they are completing these tasks. Facilitating personal coping skills and strategies. So you want to have strategies to manage their emotions and help them remain focused. Here's a whiteboard widget. And in this particular whiteboard widget, it's an empathy map. So I'm having students think through what might be, and I'll move my map down a little bit. So I want them to be in the mindset or shoes of another person and adding information into this empathy map. So this could be great for if you want them to, you're reading a piece of literature and you want them to be in the shoes of that character. They could fill in information from the text around the map. Or if you're doing historical characters, historical people, and you want to have the students understand how in that moment that founding father or general or whomever that main historical figure was feeling at that moment in time by doing also this empathy map. And then if we think even more, all of this can tie into social emotional learning. So giving students coping skills, helping them to manage their emotions and remain focused. If you follow the protocols of the CASTLE framework, and CASTLE is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, this hotspot widget is actually designed for you teachers to learn about the CASTLE framework and the signature practices. So you can see that, to support students' self-management, you could use the checklist widget to have them understand, order of events and their executive functioning. You can include a planner widget also, which I've mentioned before, to support their efficacy. Responsible decision making. Again, I have lots of examples within this that you can go exploring and to see how you can use specific activities in BookWidgets to align with social emotional learning. So lots of things here, and to get them to, again, think through their emotions, understand what's going on, and to build that capacity for remaining focused. And in thinking about developing self-assessment and reflection, you want to enable learners to monitor their own progress and adjust strategies accordingly. So here's that worksheet widget again. And this time we have a self-assessment and evaluation in history. So we're using emojis, something that students are very familiar with in communication. So they can indicate their feelings, starting a question, how do they feel about these things? So again, self-assessment, it's not graded, but it's getting students to think about their own learning progress. Where are they situated without always focused on what was my score? This is focused on feedback, and this is focused on, again, self-evaluation of their skills, not what was the grade on their paper or activity. And also, this one is the partner to that SEL check-in. Here I have an exit ticket. So this At the end of class, I have students fill in their name. How are you feeling at the end of class? It's those same emojis. And then I ask them a series of questions of how well did you do? How did you do learning those new skills and content, creating or working independently, collaborating, sharing, asking for assistance, and again, emojis for communication. And then I ask them, and this is kind of a template, so if I have 3 or 4 tasks that I had them complete for the day, I can ask them, did you accomplish these tasks? And they can, again, use the emojis to signify, yes, they completed it. Oh, it's incomplete, or they need help, or nope, it's not done. And then anything else they want to share, I give them a space that they can advocate for themselves and let me know. And then not only can I compare my entrance ticket, my check-in at the beginning of the class to the end of class with the exit ticket, I can see if my students' feelings have changed, and also have a conversation with them about, wow, you said in the check-in that, you weren't really feeling too interested in learning new skills, but yet by the end of the class, you selected like, yes, this was great for me. So they can see that transition, not just from day to day, but also kind of see some trends in within the class period and how they're feeling. So I even have a bonus here. Lucy created this awesome, holy moly, self-regulated web quest template. So if you really want to support self-regulated learning, here she is this template. So you can duplicate this, make a copy in your account. So you'll hit that green button when you get the slides. You can put this into your account, and then you can edit it to add in your goals and expectations. She's got so much stuff in here that you can customize it and learn all the things for self-regulated learning and getting your students to share their prior knowledge. And these are all templates that, like, it doesn't have to be, it can be used for any subject area. So here's, how many words can you link to the subject? You can use this for any content area and not have to change necessarily the widgets that are in this project mix. So many awesome things here. And I know the password is 0. I forget how many zeros. Whoops, I think I got one extra one. Okay, there we go. And then being able to navigate through lots of things to really dig in and explore. And all of these widgets are also that are featured in Lucy's web quest are also in this group. So when you go to BookWidgets and you've logged into your account, if you are in the BookWidgets blog group, here's the Learning Mix folder that has those templates, and then all of those widgets that are featured inside of those web quests are in this folder here. And every single one of these, even though Lucy owns them, you could come over here to the drop-down menu and hit duplicate and save it to your widgets. So really awesome to be able to do all that. Okay. So that covers engagement. Now let's take a look at representation. So just as learners will differ in how they want to be engaged and motivated to learn, learners will also differ in the ways that they perceive and comprehend that information that is presented to them. So the 3 tenets of this one are looking at perception, language and symbols, and comprehension. So when it comes to perception, what you're looking at is customizing the display of the information. And while we want to, of course, support students' efficacy with this and empower them to adjust settings like text size and audio, to meet their sensory needs. Really, a lot of this can be put on your shoulders to customize the design, because you are the professionals, you are the educators, that you can try to best design your widgets in a way that will fit and be automatically displayed for them. So thinking through the look of your widgets and accessing those design options in preview will be really powerful so that you can fit your learners' needs. And then also providing alternatives for auditory and visual information. You want to use multiple modalities to ensure that it's accessible. Like, you want to include text descriptions for images. And while we don't necessarily have sign language built in, you could include videos that have their closed captions or subtitles enabled. Include videos that would help support students with understanding spoken content that is within your widgets. Okay, so what does this mean? So when you're looking at how do you add multimedia content or tools to your questions, you're going to want to use that rich text editor, and then you can insert an image, video, audio, or even embed a web page. Or you can do this via the text question. So let me pop into my widgets. I'm going to pop into creating a widget. I'm just going to do a quiz for demonstration purposes. I'm going to call this practice. Okay. So when I add a question, that text question, it's not a question asking students to do things, but it's an informational piece of information. You can give it a title, a header, and then add in your text, and you want to say switch to rich text. And then here you can add in a video, sorry, an image. You can choose an image from your desktop computer files. You can import from Google Drive if you connect your account, but you can also find an image online via our Pixabay integration. So I'm just going to search for, I'm going to do the water cycle because I had this before. I'm going to pick this image. And then now to support some of your students, what you want to do is then click on the settings for the image. And then now here in the settings for the image, you can see description, alt text. So if you're using screen readers and supporting your visual learners, having a alt text for an image is really important for accessibility. So you just type it in there, hit done, and then it'll be added in there. And then you can also embed a video. You will need to insert a video from YouTube, Vimeo, or a Giphy link. And you can upload your own files, but you don't want to have too big of a file that you're trying to upload if you have that option. But just sharing a link from YouTube, Vimeo, or Giphy is definitely good for embedding that video in there. Make sure in YouTube that you've enabled, or Vimeo, enabled closed captions to support your students. And then you can also include, for really long YouTube videos, you can include start and end parameters so that they're not watching an hour-long video, they're only just seeing a little clip. And then when it comes to adding in some audio content to support your students, you can choose a file, upload it import it from Google Drive, or you can use the embedded recorder that we have inside of BookWidgets. Read the information and answer the questions below. I can listen to it. Read the information and answer the questions below. If I don't like it, I could exit out and re-record it, or I could even download it if I wanted to save it for whatever reason. I'm just going to hit accept. And then now you'll see, come on, where are you? I'm gonna hit preview. We should see that there. I think my image might be too big. Exit out of my image and let's do that recording again. Oops. Fast fingers. Read the information below and then answer the questions. Accept. There we go. Now it's there. Okay. And then if we go to preview, we'll see there's that nice play bar that the students can then play. Read the information below and then answer the questions. Obviously, I don't have any information in my blank widget here, but you can see how that is embedded for them. And I mentioned the design features. So if you come over here to design, depending on your license, so if you are a trial user, you're going to have limited design options. You're only going to have this top box here where you can change from a light to dark background. You can change your color, picking from any of the ones here or even a random one. And then even changing the font if you so choose. And you'll see the fonts have now changed. You can even add in a background image. Find an image online. This is where I like to just kind of search sometimes by color. If I get a cool like texture background. I can decide if I want it to cover or contain full image. Kind of play with it a little bit, see what you think, or even original image size. But for background, it's better to like kind of do cover complete area. And then now you can see I've kind of played with the design here and thinking about how you want to optimize this for your students. If you have your full license, you can kind of scroll down here on the side and see like, whoa, you can customize every single component of your widget so that you can really make what you might need for your students in terms of visual design to be able to fit their needs. All right, let's go back to the slides. So this is about perception, allowing students to be able to have multimedia and have that customized display. But again, you are doing the customization options for them. In terms of language and symbols, for universal design for learning, you want to make sure that you clarify vocabulary and symbols by using straightforward language and visual representations to ensure clarity. You want to clarify syntax and structure, making sure that grammatical structures are clear to aid understanding. So as you're doing directions or giving them any sort of text, that the information, the wording that you're using is appropriate to your audience. You want to support decoding of text and symbols. So you want to assist your learners in interpreting complex text, symbols, or mathematical notation. You want to promote understanding across languages, offering translation and multilingual support. We can certainly do that in BookWidgets. And then illustrate through multimedia. Use diverse formats such as videos, diagrams, and interactive simulations to enrich learning. So let's take a look at a couple examples. Here's a quiz. And this is a math quiz. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the quiz. And what we have in here is that latex formatting. So don't be fooled by the name of BookWidgets and think this is only for ELA, English language arts, reading, writing, because absolutely math teachers can use BookWidgets. We have every type of math question is showcased in this particular math quiz. So you can see that annotation, to be able to type in your formulas or equations. There's even a scratch pad for students to write on. And you will see a copy of their, notes and their kind of work, but it's not going to be graded. Again, fractions, you see that, again, scratch pad is enabled for them. Look at those equations. Don't even ask how to solve them, including here we have an image. They can type in their text. Again, some more images. You may notice also too, up in the top corner here, we've enabled a calculator. So students, if they don't have a physical calculator, you can use a simple calculator or a complex scientific calculator. You can choose from the settings within BookWidgets and have them do their equations accordingly. So if you don't have a physical calculator or class set, we got you covered. So again, being clear with the language, that they understand what they're doing, supporting them in that interpretation. Here we have pair matching. So you could make it a game. Again, maybe this is language where they're practicing matching words to pictures. And then you'll notice here we have it set so that when you make a match, we have symbols that appear in the bottom corner, in addition to the color coding. So your perceptually impaired students who may have issues with seeing color can still have the opportunity to see when they've made a match. And if you see the speaker icon in the corner,
baseball,
we're supporting students with multimodal, that it's reading aloud what's on the card so they can hear it in addition to seeing it. And then this, wait till I show you this widget. Holy moly. This is a split worksheet. We have awesome. A virtual biology lab is embedded on one side of this split worksheet for students to interact with. And then on the other side, this was made by one of our ambassadors, Samuel Carabello, who's a science and mathematics teacher. He's linked in his science standards. He's given them information and directions. And then as they navigate through, let me just show you, like, this is crazy having this awesome simulation here that they can do things within this virtual biology lab to change the parameters. They can, initial size bigger. I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to make my mortality rate, brood size. You can see what ends up happening, and then students can capture their data as a screenshot and then upload it here. He also has some check for understanding questions so that they can do this and again, demonstrate their learning and work with some interactive simulations to think through some complex information. So this one's awesome. This is really powerful to really see. And then now you can see like live what's going on. They're running the simulation and we're seeing graphs in real time. It's crazy what you're able to do with this. It's pretty awesome. If you're looking for some other interactive simulations, I can highly recommend FET, FHET, out of the University of Colorado, which also has some really interactive simulations for math and science. All right. Let's take a look at comprehension. So when it comes to comprehension with UDL, you want to activate or supply background knowledge. You want to make sure that students are connecting new information to their prior knowledge. You want to also have them highlight patterns and critical features. You want to emphasize key elements and their interrelatedness. You want to guide information processing, support your learners in organizing and integrating that new information, and then maximizing transfer and generalization, encouraging them to apply that knowledge to new contexts. So I have a few widget activities that will support this with comprehension. So this is a real simple kind of, you could use this as, a do now or bell ringer to get into the lesson for the day. So this is a worksheet with, it's just fill in the blank kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be graded, but it's getting students to activate their understanding and their prior knowledge. What are 3 things you didn't know yet? What are 2 things that surprise you? So this could be done at the end of a lesson. What would you start doing with what you've learned? So again, facilitating a way, very easy for them to start making those connections. And you could use this multiple times. You could keep reassigning this particular widget activity for any lesson content, multiple days, and then you'd be able to see how the students are connecting things together. Let's take a look at a mind map widget. So when we're talking about, again, making connections or processing complex information, this is a mind map where the students are being asked to create a mind map with all their geometry formulas they've learned until now. And then we've linked in, referred to these flashcards for a review of area and volume. So if I click that link, it'll take me to flashcards, and then I can see what the formula is behind the scenes. And then as a student, what I could do is if I wanted to capture screenshots or if I wanted to type in, I can totally do that. I'm going to go back to my mind map. And then what I can do, geometry formulas. I can start adding in. I can even color code. Whoops. Spell things correctly would be helpful. And if I know the formula, I could type it in. I could do some color coding. I can do some connections and really help to build out a great study aid for this. I have a great blog post, 30 activities for math. And within that is an example of this particular widget that is already filled out. It just shows a nice screenshot of that. But the mind map is a great way to get students thinking again, how to take that information, how to process it, and connect it. Here we have a hotspot image. So this hotspot is about the SAMR model. So the SAMR model of technology integration. So this is another widget activity for you teachers, not just for your students. So what this will do is each section of this will give you an understanding of the step of the SAMR model. So Dr. Ruben Pudenantura's model here says, substitution, where you have technology acts as a direct substitute with no functional change. That's kind of like taking your PDF worksheet and making it, clickable. That's an example of substitution. Augmentation, direct substitute with functional improvement. Oh, now you've got it with your questions can be auto-scored. Students are typing things in. So your paper worksheet has been functionally improved for both your students and you. And then really what you want to get to is a place where as you use the technology, you're able to do a task redesign and create brand new tasks that might not have been conceivable before. So when you're thinking about ways that you can support your students' comprehension and getting them to process all of this new information, I encourage you to think also about the SAMR model and how you can enhance your instruction with book widgets as well as transform the learning for your students. And if you get stuck, I got a checklist of questions that help you to think through this process too. So this is another widget for you, not for your students, but it's great for professional development. Oh, and then that randomness widget. So not again, everything has to be faces and screens and students doing the widgets. We have here the randomness spinner. This one asks them to do kind of a quick project, something that's really fast and challenging, not meant to be a long drawn out project, but rather a quick way for students to show what they have learned during the duration of the lesson. So design a building that's representative of the information learned today. Whoa, this is kind of cool. Get really creative. And if they don't like it, spin the wheel. What else could they do? Record a 30-second video that reteaches a concept learned today. Generate 3 quiz-type questions to check someone's understanding of today's lesson. So this is great, again, for kind of end of class and getting them to codify all the things that they've learned. You are able to make a copy in your account so that you have this, and you can add in. You don't like some of the things I've made for this particular one, you can add in your own. And then this is a great one to you could put it up on the front board of your classroom and spin the wheel and make everybody do the same thing. Or you could build in that sense of autonomy and choice, and students would open this widget on their individual computers and then, or Chromebooks, and then can spin the wheel to pick out what they will do to demonstrate their learning and to show what they know. So this brings us to the next piece of the framework, action and expression. So again, according to CAST, learners will differ in the ways that they can navigate a learning environment and express what they know. So there is no one way that is best for every single person, whether it be for comprehension or engagement, and also for action and expression. There is no one way that is best for everyone, but rather you want to have multiple ways to differentiate and so that students can express what they know. So looking at physical action, you want to use various methods for response and navigation. You want to enable learners to interact with the diverse methods that best suit their physical capabilities and learning preferences. So again, if you want to bucket multiple things together, the WebQuest widget is a great way to curate multiple resources. And there's that eco poetry one I've shared earlier, and give them some opportunity to play and choose what they want to do. And, again, demonstrate their understanding in ways that resonate with them. The planner widget, again, is another way to create that pathway of learning. So here we have instructions. What kind of book report do you want to make? You're going to choose 3 activities. They're categorized. Choose what you want. I go back to the list. And then students up here would click the plus icon, and they know they need to pick 1 blue, 1 green, 1 yellow, and 1 red activity to do a digital book report. And again, we're linking to the different activities. I've already curated this for them to choose from, but we're letting them meet us in the ways that they want to showcase their learning. You also want to optimize access to tools and assisted technologies, and you want to ensure that all learners and all necessary tools are accessible to all learners, okay? So here we have another pair matching. So game-based learning is great. So we have our animals, we have our speech to text,
Image of a farm animal with a large body, 4 legs, and often spotted skin, known for giving milk. Image of a large, furry animal with a big body and powerful legs, often seen standing or walking.
So here we have our speech to text.
Bear. Horse.
So that I can help support my students, again, who may have some visual impairment, but I still want them to be able to play this particular same game with their students, with their classmates.
Fox.
And then they can select and make matches. And we can see the matches are color-coded. And we have the symbols in the corner to support that. Here's a quiz. So for this particular one, we have some accessibility features are enabled. We have, some emojis to support our learners. But if you notice, I've just kind of hit, as I highlight text on here, you have to enable that text selection.
Listen to the instructions.
So now I have some reading aloud to me. And then I also have the teacher's voice.
Click on the audio icon and connect the word you're hearing with the right image.
So the teacher has recorded this audio for the students.
Sun.
We have the audio
sun
matching to picture match. And they can always click on, if they're having trouble seeing, like, what is this? They can click on the image. It'll expand it for them to see what it looks like. They can exit it, and then they can make, their matches accordingly. So even doing words.
Sun.
Again, screen reader
Chicken.
here is enabled. And then if I say, well, I don't like Aaron's voice. So this is also for students to be able to customize too. They can pick.
Hello, how are you?
And if I say I want it
Hello,
faster
how are you?
or slower,
Hello, how are you?
I can choose to do that. So this is, from the student view, being able to do this. So we have, again, these accessibility features that are in here to support their understanding. And let's take a look at one more example. Here's another worksheet. So here we have a math one. So we have math questions for them to complete. Oh, some of these questions might look familiar from that math quiz. Oh, yes. You can very easily import questions from one widget to another. So again, you want to make different versions to differentiate your instructions. If you find that your students like having the long scrollable page to see all of their questions, make a worksheet of it. If you're like, well, they better focus by looking at one question at a time, then turn it into a quiz widget. And you can have those 2 widgets available for your students to choose from. And then also, if you notice up here in the top corner, we have, here's that calculator icon, but also an on-screen keyboard. So if they need some math symbols, they can use the on-screen keyboard. So if they got to type in here, they can use that to type in whatever their numbers might be. And obviously I am not a math person to tell you what is the, although I should know H2O, H2. I'm going to come back. Nope. Back. And then I can come up here. Oh, whoops. All right. I'm messing that one up. But you can get the idea of using the on-screen keyboard and latex formatting to assist them. All right, let's look at expression and communication. So for this component, you want to use multimedia for communication. You want to encourage expression across different media, such as text, speech, video, and graphics, to suit those diverse learning styles and needs. You want to use multiple tools for construction and composition, provide a variety of tools to support different ways of creating and sharing content. And you also want to build fluencies with graduated levels of support. So, thinking about scaffolding, you're learning for your students that you're giving them the support that they may need so that they can develop those skills progressively and gradually remove that scaffolding as their competency increases. So these next 4 widgets I'm going to show you, it's the same content, but I've just switched up the modality and expression for them to experience it. So here we have pair matching. So I've made it a game for the water cycle. They're going to match the different steps. And I have alt text for my images.
Clouds with rain falling.
Oh, what step of the water cycle is this? Precipitation. Yay, I got a match. So I can have the screen readers but I have to put in that alt text myself, because you'll notice this particular image does not have alt text. How do I know? Because there is no speaker icon here in the upper corner. So as you're creating your widgets, you want to make sure that, you are empowered. We are giving you the tools so that you can support your students' needs. So that was pair matching. Same content. Now we're doing a split worksheet. Here I have directions, refer to the information and video below, then answer the questions to the right. The students will watch the embedded video. They'll read some text. And then I have questions for them to answer. Their first question is a typing. Explain the water cycle and how climate change can impact this cycle by typing your response below. I give them a speaking question to answer. Imagine you're speaking with another student who's in a younger grade. Record yourself explaining the water cycle in terms that this other student would understand. I give them an annotate picture question. Annotate the picture by identifying each step of the water cycle. So, and you can see here, as I've expanded and moved the frames. So if I needed to focus more on the reading, I can do that. But then if I want to focus more on the questions, you'll see how that annotate question kind of moved. And you can also have your annotate question, thinking about scaffolding. If you have students who struggle with typing or the technical vocabulary, you could have a drop-down answer, or you can have them type in the terminology themselves. So you have that option to add in drop-downs or a typing where they will, how do you make the drop-down? I'll show you. And then even a whiteboard question. So just as you can have a whiteboard widget, you can have a whiteboard question type for them to create their own diagram. So, and use the tools to be able to do in text, lines, and drawing. And then self-evaluate with a rubric question. How well did they understand the water cycle? How well was their ability to communicate complex concepts? How well was their creative and innovative thinking and their visual representation skills? So this rubric isn't just looking at the content of the questions, like the material. We're also looking at their skills. So getting students to think not just about the what, but also about the how that they've learned or communicated and expressed themselves. And by the way, I use ChatGPT again to generate the parts of my rubric for me. That's pretty cool to leverage that technology as teachers. And then they can submit. So we had the question about the drop down. So let me go here, exit out of this widget. I'm going to go back to my example lessons. I'm gonna go find that water cycle. Here we go. So I'm in the editor view now of that split worksheet I just showed you. I have my questions are all here. I have my text, which is I'm using that rich text editor again, where I've embedded that video. If I wanted to include other things, other, audio, I could also include that as well. If I wanted to embed a web page, I could do that. Let's go back to the questions. And we're going to go to that annotate picture question. So within the annotate picture, you can see I've created the drop down for the input fields. And I've got some coding here that shows that. So I'm going to kind of just add one from scratch so you can see the process. I'm going to add an input field. And so now what I need to do is type in the correct answer. There's this little eye icon that gives you some more information. And this is where it'll tell you how to do that drop down is by adding the word select : and then your answer choices. Okay, so I'm going to do just for select, I'm just going to put in random words, mountain, hashtag stream, hashtag ocean. Oops, and I can spell mountain correctly. Okay. Now I need to pick where my input field is. So, and I can move the marker around. I can move the box around where I want it to be inputted. So maybe I'll put this one here. It's a, oh no, I'll put it here because I'll say it's mountain was the correct answer. Okay, and drag it over here. I can also disable my markers. If I don't like seeing these markers, I can disable them. And then it's going to be kind of a placeholder. And I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. So there's my answers. I'm going to hit preview so you can see it. Now let me scroll down. Okay. And let me do this so you can see the difference. So now here's that new input field I made. It doesn't have a marker because I disabled that like these ones do. But it does have now those arrows to show the drop down for it. Yeah. So very easy to do that. And I'm going to delete this because I don't want that particular input field there. So I'm just going to remove that one and delete it. Okay. And yep, even though I've made some changes, I fixed them and I'm going to hit update so that my changes are saved. Okay. So that was the split worksheet. Sorry, yes, split worksheet. Now I'm going to use the same content, but this time I'm going to turn it into a video quiz. So activating my students with a first question. What do you remember about the water cycle? Type your thoughts below. So they can fill in and just kind of verbal diarrhea and brain dump anything they remember about the water cycle. Now we're going to continue the video.
The water cycle.
I'll spare you the water cycle song. And then as the video progresses, they listen through it. They get to the end and we have our checkpoint. And now I have, again, multimodal questions for them to check their understanding. Now that you've heard the song, can you explain it? Annotate the picture, use the whiteboard tools, etc. So again, multimodal. I know we've gone really long and we're almost done with this content today, but wanted again to show you different ways that you can construct their learning and composition. Here we have same content, but now this time I'm asking them to construct and we're using the timeline widget. And I've given them some basic instructions, name the step of the cycle, include text that explains the step, add a supporting and cited image. So now here's their the timeline. They can move this, box around. We can add multiple boxes. So there we go. And then if I want to move this over here, if I want to make it a different order, I totally can. Want to upload an image, I can do that. I can take a picture from my camera on my personal device, and then I can type in my information accordingly and enter it. So this one, you know, would be a more advanced widget because I'm not giving them the information. They have to pull the information from elsewhere. And then last, just thinking through again, scaffolding and competencies. And also thinking about supporting community. So here we have a split worksheet, and what's embedded on one side is a Padlet. And so this is a great way if you want to have that sense of community and collaboration where you're letting students see things and share within a controlled environment. A Padlet is like a digital bulletin board. So we have students in the class have added their comments here, and you know, they can hit the plus sign and they can add in their own using Padlet. You know, and the teacher would have to go create this Padlet on Padlet's site, grab the embed code, the link, and embed it in their split worksheet. And then we have these questions here. So the Padlet's on the left, you know, add your post to the Padlet and then answer the questions below. And then the questions that they're answering aren't going to be visible to everyone else. They will only be visible to the teacher. So within this particular worksheet, we're doing not only teacher to student check understanding, but also allowing students to engage and converse on a communal space. So that's a pretty advanced widget, give you some ideas to think about. Okay, so we're looking at executive functioning is the third component of the Universal Design for Learning framework for this section. And we want to guide appropriate goal setting. We want to facilitate managing information and resources by providing these tools and help learners set and achieve goals. We want to support planning and strategy development, and we also want to enhance their capacity for monitoring progress. The checklist widget is great for this. So just to show you a few examples, you can do a checklist for a field trip and have them check the boxes that they have these things. So again, supporting their efficacy and executive functioning. You could make a checklist rubric for, you know, a service project. So if you're giving them a really big project to go complete, you can have these this become like the map for them as they're doing each of these big steps. And maybe you have, you know, elsewhere that they're doing the work, but at least here, this can support their executive functioning. Here's another one, like substitute lessons. Like, oh, think about it when you have a substitute and your students love to like mine may have, challenge the substitute teacher. Well, now you can have your students do a substitute lesson checklist. Again, you're supporting their efficacy, their executive functionings, you're tapping into their self-control and making responsible choices on the day that you're not in the classroom with them. And then the planner widget, if you want to do something that's a little bit more guided and monitoring them through a project. So here we have this planner widget where they can, again, click on activities. They can go complete them, navigate back to the planner. And even in the plus sign, there's more things that they could choose from to play. This is a great widget created by my colleague Cheryl to talk about sustainable development goal number 12, energy. Okay, so that was a lot I showed you with each of these things. So when you're thinking about universal design for learning, we have so many of those different question types that are available. But remember that the widgets that have all of the question types are these four: the worksheet, split worksheet, quiz, and video quiz. If you're curious about all the different question types, this worksheet, our animals worksheet, has an example of every single one of the 36 question types we have available in BookWidgets. So you can make a copy of this into your account, and then you can go see behind the scenes, how are each of these questions set up and how are they designed, so that you can, again, do what's great for your students. Not that I recommend you having a 30 question worksheet here, but this gives you a way to support your students in thinking about how you can best meet their needs. So this worksheet widget, which I'm just quickly scrolling through, gives you that idea of seeing how all of those different question types in one shot. All right. And then I have, again, just to review real fast, the different types of questions. When you're thinking about skills and supporting them, so using various question types to support speaking skills, reading skills, listening skills, writing and spelling, grammar, vocabulary, and then that rubric question type is great for that reflection piece. And then I've shown you throughout the webinar some behind the scenes looks as far as options within BookWidgets. So to recap some of those, creating an audio recording of the instructions or adding a video is a great way to support your students. You can activate that spell check if they need that scaffolding and support. You can also include a specific language for that spell check. And then you can even change the language of the buttons, like the submit button. If you don't like the word submit, you can change it, and the different dialogue windows can be changed, that you can have your own kind of customized language for the interface. So if you're working with multilingual learners, let's say they know Spanish and English, you could have directions in Spanish if that's what they're stronger in, and then the practice text in English. And then you could have those dialogues in Spanish. So this will, if you go to your account, you go to language and hit save. This is going to do your entire account's language. But then within the widget, if you go to open a widget, you go to the language tab within the editor, and then you go to current language, you can select and make choices accordingly. I showed you some text to speech. So you have to, in the general settings, allow text selection, and then this will enable the screen reading software to work correctly. And that's where you saw the play button appear in BookWidgets when I showed you that. So in the general settings, allow text selection, and then you can choose from the options for the screen reading software. That's through the browser. But if you need some additional supporting tools also through text selection, we highly recommend Immersive Reader in the Microsoft Edge browser, as well as the Google Translate Chrome extension that will give you even more capabilities for supporting your multilingual learners. And then when in terms of scoring and feedback and providing that feedback, you can determine if you want to show correct or incorrect answers and or the score. You can have general comments for the entire widget activity, as well as comments under each question when you provide feedback. You can do comments in the answers and even indicate spelling mistakes, etc. And then in your feedback settings, you can color code answers immediately, as I showed you earlier. You can do feedback with or without points and or corrections. And you can also do feedback with or without the student's mistakes. So again, you can customize everything in terms of the feedback and showing your students. And if you have any questions about any of this, we have a number of handy links and resources to support you. If you have a question, you can always reach out to us at support@bookwidgets.com. Our webinars page, you can check out some of our previous recordings. So app smashing was last week. We'll have that recording up soon. We also have webinars on world languages, on you name it, we pretty much have a webinar for it. Also with our tutorials and our knowledge base articles are also a great way to see some behind the scenes technical stuff for BookWidgets. And our Facebook community is a great place to connect with other educators who are using book widgets. And the blog, oh my gosh, the blog. The Book Widgets blog is a fantastic resource for inspiration. And, again, all of our widgets that we create for the blog are housed in groups. So if you got to join that blog group, which is linked here, and then you can make a copy of every widget we've ever made. So just kind of wrap us up and to review the core principles of universal design for learning. You want to focus on motivating your diverse learners through engagement. You want to offer information through multiple formats and representation. You want to allow varied ways for learners to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding through action and expression. And ultimately, the goal of universal design for learning is to create that accessible, flexible, and inclusive educational environment so that you can develop expert learners who are, each in their own way, resourceful, knowledgeable, strategic, goal-directed, purposeful, and motivated. So I am so glad our roads have crossed and that you joined me for this very lengthy advanced webinar.